Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the 9-time GSL champion, the Terran in the red, the man, the myth, the Maru. Facing off against the former World Champion Zerg in the blue, we have Rogue in a best-of-3 Terran versus Zerg showdown as part of the newest season of the RSL 2026 tournament. Before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button or maybe even subscribe. And it looks like we're getting started very early. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,846 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do in my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better, as the Zerglings are already on the field before the Reaper could even come across the map. Rogue, possibly knowing that Maru has a need for greed, tried to punish him, maybe make him bleed. But the SCV has fleed, or so Rogue has thought. But Maru, with an intent to mislead, was able to hide the SCV in the back of the base. And now we'll see what he seed in the main, which is no gas at all. The early Zerglings were a fake out, and if Maru went for his not atypical command center first style, okay, maybe. You get a little bit of damage done, you delay it. The sacrifice of the SCV. Blood. The blood god, or queens, well, either way. It's sacrificed not in vain, though. Seeing there's no gas from Rogue is by far the most important part. Yes, there's a third base. Yes, Rogue is going to have a whole heap and helping of drones. And by that I mean probably about a dozen or two more than Maru, especially in the early game. But well, actually, he's going to have infinitely more drones than Maru, for you pedantic nerds in the comments, but that's also redundant. But I digress. We're moving on. Maru as well. A starport on the way. Not a quick third, but instead intending to get all his tech up. The Destiny Cloud Fist, the 111, the barracks, the factory, and the starport. And that's a medevac. I've gotten very good at knowing what the icons mean. You would think after 16 years, but a medevac. So, going to try to exploit the same area that the SCV hid with that worker-only path. Just slip the Hellions in the back door and heat things up. But not in a fun way, as the medevac is the quickest, easiest, some might say dirtiest, but others might say cheapest, though they're not mutually exclusive way to get those Hellions into the base. And if the medevac is spotted, which it will be. He took a bit of a sideways pathing there, and I think realized that he was going to get spotted by the Overlord anyway. So, wow, he might just go into the natural. There are a lot of options, but Rogue is acutely aware of all the angles. There is no Zergling speed, so the Queens... Oh, it's a bait! It's a fake! He just comes into the natural! A bait and switch, but the Queen... Wide stance! Very good. Very, very good. Technically, a queen is exactly the thickness needed to block out Hellions. So, it's still not thick enough, technical terms, to block out Zerglings or smaller units like Marines, but Hellions are a little bit larger. So, if you place the queen in the right spot... Now, none of this is as important if you bring the Reaper to maybe bounce the queens out of the way, which we see sometimes. But we did not see that. Instead, Maru, he tried to get a little clever, and Rogue takes a bit of damage, but not a bite. He's going to be in a very comfortable position. Now, most importantly, and now this is going to come as a shock, and I see the production tab. I told you I knew about the icons. We'll talk about that in a moment. But a medevac and a Raven are both not Banshees. Yeah, I'm glad I took some time out of my day for that one, but the fact he doesn't have a Banshee at all, he has nothing to really threaten the mineral line. In fact, there's no need for spore crawlers whatsoever. Look at the worker count, 67 to 48. Maru's attempts to do some early pressure have fallen incredibly flat, and now the Queens are even taking out the auto turret. Another Hellion drop, and yes, Maru is taking us to McDonald's. He's trying to make sure as much of the map gets charbroiled early on, but so far, Rogue, he's not buying what he's selling. So, Maru with 3 bases, but it is important to note here on Celestial Enclave, the Enclave base is more of a budget base. You only have 1 gas geyser and 5 mineral patches, as opposed to 2 gas geysers and 8 mineral patches. So, even going for mech here is not as comfortable, assuming you can get your bases up, as other locations. But there is a chance, a relatively high one, I think, that Rogue will not suspect this. And the response to mech is usually significantly different than the response to Marines. But I feel like Rogue might have his suspicions. Because who goes for a medevac drop with a Raven to start things off and then just sits in their base? The fact he's still been building Hellions, the Overseer's going to get in, and the Cyclones might knock it down. But then he'll know they're Cyclones, which in the first place is a giveaway. He's going to see absolutely everything. He's going to see the entirety of the McDonald's franchise put together. 2 armories, 3 factories, and 0 acknowledgement of Marines as an important part of the unit composition. And the Hellions there and back again. A murderous story. And this time, the 3rd or 4th... The Zerglings come back, but Rogue got a little complacent. And now, he'll get a little less drones going into Hive Tech. 73 to 66. He's going to replace them immediately. The creep spread is already metastasized about halfway across the map. 1-1 upgrades are done for Maru. But Rogue is already there. And he started on the 2-2. That's not as surprising as the hardest part of mech and the struggle overall is the infrastructure cost. The fact that both the armories and factories cost gas, alongside the stock Hellions and Cyclones are okay, but you really need those upgrades. They're not upselling you, okay? The mag field accelerator for 50% more lock-on damage, the infernal pre-igniter with the blue flame for like 50% more damage against light. It's actually a flat number, but it's a lot. And even more for Hellbats, but already Adrenal Gland. Rogue! Ultralisks! That is certainly one of the ways to potentially deal with this. And it will... Well, there's a scan, and he'll see absolutely nothing. Good day, sir. But he knows that there was a hive in the main. I think he was hedging his bets and trying to see if Rogue would actually just put all the tech in the natural. The lack of tech is a little bit of information thereof. The queens rotating around in their inject rotation. Just like that sentence. And 5 dropper lords on the way. I'll see if he's going to do some ultralist drop harass. But, of course, that's still a little ways off. Command center on the low ground. The queen slightly off the creep. The Hellions will give him a bit of a sauna treatment. And, well, queens have never been accused of being light units. So they're not going to take the extra damage from Blue Flame. Let's put it that way. They're safe. Feels like an insult, Winter. No meta discuss. Sorry. The scan in the main spots the Ultralist Cavern. Though he may spot it not upgrading. Those are paperlisks he's building right now. Easily taken down by so many things. Even if a lot of mech is very strong against ultras, whether or not it has the armor, you gotta get the armor. You gotta. He just hadn't started yet. The dropper lords are loaded up with langs, and Maru has expanded aggressively, as Maru seems to get away with and no one else is capable of. At least to this extent. Maru's gone from 3 to 5 bases, and Rogue has been really unable to pressure it. Of course, a lot of that is the orange upgrades. The highest tier now in production for both sides. And notably, Maru is going Ghost Mech. But here we go. Triple-pronged attack. We've got a drop in the back. And a potential attack at the front. Blast through a planetary fortress. The Zerglings on the 3rd base. And he's winding up for another attack. The Zerglings get into the main. Does he have Burrow to extend this? Yes! Burrow's in the main. Forces a command center lift. 22 dead. Zerglings back around in the 3rd. And during all of this, Rogue is refilled. He's at 101 drones and 200 supply. Which means that his army supply is obviously not as impressive. But if he's playing the literal 300 supply Zerg, then the 100 supply, refill, 100 more, when you have the economy to do so. The main base isn't even mined out. This is the highest economy you're ever gonna get. 4,200 minerals and 1,500 gas per minute. He's mining from like 7 or 8 bases, mostly efficiently. But here we go. Round 2 is loaded up, a little more sad than the first one, but still potentially effective. Maru just builds a planetary at the back. Gonna try to shut this down before it can even start. Of course, that cuts into the potential economy. And also, planetaries do not fly. So he just kind of flies right by. The rocks being taken down. He'll sacrifice a few Zerglings, but if he actually opens up another path... The Baneling... An Ultra? Casual Ultra. It has 1 kill, and I believe it's the sensor tower. Meanwhile, the Zergling drop wasn't actually cleaned up. Maru unable to stabilize. Rogue essentially got everything a Zerg player could ever want. He got 4 bases with minimal damage. Yeah, he had to deal with the early Hellions. He got Hive Tech without suffering an early attack. And now he has literally 100 drones. He has half the map. He's getting multiple Nidus, Blinding Cloud, a whole bunch of ghosts, but Maru doesn't have that sort of economy that Terran players sometimes do at this stage. Oh, and gets a little bit too close. Interrupted by the massive jaws closing in on the snipes and the damage that comes with it. Rogue putting together the Oversight Committee, the strategy that he's pioneered, that has tilted many a Terran player before. Infinite changelings. Also, you kind of need overseers. Otherwise, if the ghosts just cloak at the right time, you could lose literally your entire army. There is no reliable detection for Zerg outside of the overseer. Your options are spore crawlers and fungal, or blowing up your banelings and hoping you're close enough to the ghost for it to matter. So, none of those great. Meanwhile, a Nidus, bottom right corner. Nidus directly into the main. Maru looking around. You see his mini-map camera just scrambling the moment he hears the Nidus. Another one in the main. That one should have been a little more obvious. I'm surprised he didn't catch it. But now he could be caught out of position. Another attack at the front. The Corruptors will knock down some of the medevacts which are being used for the Hellbats and Ghosts. Vipers mixed in. He's got a couple Blinding Clouds on the high ground, allowing the Ultralisk to chew through. And very simply, it looks like Maru will not be allowed to hold the low ground. At least not for long. And not without a heavy cost. There's still a Nidus in the... Hello? Not to talk about the weird interdimensional hole in the room. But... how do they travel so fast? So like well, the Zerg will continue until morale improves. You might have thought it's an all-time low, but no. Another Nidus, why not? Ultras at the front. Zerglings covering for them. Corruptors knocking Liberators out of the sky. The Ghosts will hold the line for now. The Nidus in the main, the Hellbats doing their best to knock it out. There are no lurkers, so... well, the Ghosts... not enough. The orbital is burning. Carrick is burning. It's a disaster. A single SCV. Big job, huh? Another Nidus. The siege tanks at the back, but the siege continues. As Maru. He's lost 5,000 less resources, but Rogue has had the income, and he still has money in the bank while being maxed out. The only reason that he's been able to hold is Rogue is literally playing that 300 supply Zerg. This is the only scenario where you can get away with it in most games. You need to have half the map before they have a quarter, because then you can double down. And for them, the numbers don't lie. And they spell disaster. As another wave comes through, the Ultras chewing the SCVs and working on the Ghosts. How many remain? Still 8 Ghosts. I think they were in the main. Corruptors just look back to knock down the orbital. Retreat. 84 more Zerglings in production. And Maru running out of real estate. Zerglings, Nidus, Ultras, oh my. A master class in the battering ram Zerg. He's got just enough Vipers continually mixed in for Blinding Cloud. Because the siege tanks are oh wow, that's a lot of damage. Where's the Viper? Rogue, hello? So, those are the kind of things that if happen... What the f... So this is 100% winning or throwing the game. 26 mutas in an absolutely bold, underlined, and italicized move. The normal issue with Mech is a lack of anti-air. And there's no Thors mixed in. If there was even one or two, this would be a disaster. And there's still 10 ghosts. So, yes, but Blinding Cloud, they can't really get their snipes off. The siege tanks and Hellbats are just working through bases. But the mutas, they can just clean up the rest. The biggest weakness of Hellbats is a replacement for Marines. Well, there's several major weaknesses, but 15 more mutas, 3 Thors on the way, but Maru just taps it out. He took the muta risk, and it pays off with dividends. Rogue just runs Maru down in game number 1. He never really got his feet under him, and eventually was swept away. That was like a fantasy game for Rogue. You don't get to do that against, especially top-tier Terrans very often. But Maru telegraphing... I think he meant to hide that. I think the biggest mistake was not hiding the medevac. There's no reason he needed to show the medevac to the Overlord. Like, he knew where it was. We saw him move it at that last second. But it was already... By the time the medevac sees the Overlord sees the medevac. That's how it works, all right? They have that air vision range. So, telegraphing the Hellion drop against a Zerg player whose entire focus was on mass drones, that could have been devastating to Rogue. If he was caught even a little unprepared, he loses 15 drones. But instead it was like 4, which is less. You're welcome. You know what isn't less, hopefully? The amount of likes and subscribes after I say this sentence. That's a risky one. Jimmy, edit that out. Edit. Sometimes it doesn't pay off, all right? Where are we? Necropolis. Huh. One of our, I believe, our Team Liquid map contest maps. I don't know if the RSL is using the same set. But a lot of the community tournaments mixing in some of the amazing, both visually and, to an extent, the layouts. But this looks relatively standard. There's rocks and some rocks. Maybe there's a rock tower? No, looks like just regular rocks. Any rich Vespine? Nope. No pocket bases. Looks like your stock standard. And also a ramp up to the natural, which not quite as defensive as Celestial Enclave, but the ramp up to the natural is the one greatest indicator of a defensive map. Just making it that much easier to defend your second base. And shut down early all-ins. It's not impossible to attack, but it's significantly harder. And wow, you've got quite a glow about you, Hatchery. The lighting here feels like this is the Zerg side of the map. Like, quite literally. Is there a theme on the other side? Oh. There is a theme. Avex has always had quite a amount of detail to his maps. I mean, outside of the layout as well. I feel like, yeah, purple versus turquoise. Meanwhile, the Reaper doesn't care about any of those things. Shameless. Third command center slapped down right in front of the Overlord. Let him watch. How do you know it's a him? I wish I didn't ask. Overlord spots it and finds a little pillar to hang out with. Okay, well that seals it. There's just Zerg logos. Is that the Brood War Zerg logo? Straight up, this is a Zerg versus Protoss match. I mean map, not match, obviously. I know what I'm doing. Where are we? Going in circles just like the Reaper, waiting for an opportunity to snipe off those early creep tumors. Zergling speed is done, though. Terran Maru knows the timing. Right around 3:30, assuming they aren't going for that sort of gasless build. In which case, you got to keep track of the gas itself or take some educated guesses. And now... Banshee. Queen. Just quick side eye at the grenade. Will he? Or won't he? Thinking about darting in, but I doubt he'll take the plunge. Cloak is the choice. Will Brenda bounds, knocks another queen out of the way, but just 2 Hellions so far. Queen's moving to defend the creep in a little bit of a quicker lair. Not a lair rush by any means. We've seen Rogue try some very quick... Wait, was that... Ragnarok? All Zergs look alike to me. Zergs have definitely been trying to... try new strains of Zerg versus Terran, especially on the new maps lately. Seeing what sticks and what they can actually pull some wins off against Terrans who polished their builds for the last 16 years. And make no mistake, Maru has been doing this sort of Hellion Banshee 3cc in some slight variation for over half of his lifetime. But 2 armories directly behind it. An upgrade rush style with mech. And a Banshee in the main, but a Spore Crawler in position. As the Queen shuts it down for now. Another troop of queens, right on the edge of the creep. A Spire on the way. Rogue gonna try to cut things off earlier this time, but wow, they go all the way in and then pull out at the last second, leaving everyone a little surprised and mostly disappointed. As Rogue he had plenty of Zerglings ready to catch those Hellions. And I think Maru either caught a glimpse or suspected it. Meanwhile, Banshee Banshee's speed is on the way. This is restricted lair space. Who's gonna enforce it, Brenda? Do we have anyone who could fly here? Well, I've been inspired, Susan. Oh, God. Puns are the lowest form of humor. You know what else is low? Us! Rude. Sorry. Hive mind. Took her. So it's Super Battle Mech. Gotta do better. Hyper Battle Mech. Sounds a little better. Working on it. But, oh, he scans the Spire, though. So, the Hellions just run... Oh, they're back. And the Zerglings try to get the wraparound, but literally playing with fire here. So, he lost 5 Hellions, has killed 34 Zerglings, so still a pretty good trade. 8 Mutas on the way. But he's still building Banshees, like... Well, Banshees with speed are only marginally slower than Mutas. And I'm not actually sure if I'm pretty sure they're almost certainly sure. They are, like, 84%. Oh, no! Oh, and 4 Banshees just show up out of nowhere. And they're definitely faster than Overseers without speed. And I'm pretty sure they're faster than Overseers with speed. So, for a second I thought that Rogue scanned, but that's not how anything works. The Overseer... Hey! Well, If you attack your own mutas with the other mutas, does it do splash damage? Oh, one ran out of energy. Look away. We're not allowed to show Terran units dying. That's bad propaganda. They only go missing in action. Wait, that's a different... But now Cyclones with Magfield Accelerator already completed, locks on and knocks mutas out of the sky. A Changeling holding the Watchtower, which is a weird look for something that almost certainly hasn't developed any form of eyes yet. So the Hyper Shees so far, and the Hyper Mech in general, this very mobile mech composition, Rogue has started with the mutas, and he hasn't really gotten the damage, which means Maru is in a much better spot relatively than last game. Last game, he attempted to get early damage and crashed and burned. Mostly crashed, not a lot of burning. This time, it's been Rogue who went for the early tech that's been all but shut down entirely. And 200 versus 200 supply, which is something I don't think we ever saw in the last game, goes to the Mech Terran. 9 times out of 10. And the other time, the Mech Terran is actually just a gold leaguer who turtled hard enough to get into the GSL. Which... I was going to try to insult someone specifically. But anyways. Moving on. Just like the Banshees all around the map. Burrow's about to complete. And Rogue clearly lining up some Zerglings. I'm always impressed. This is not a dig, but instead a compliment. Rogue is the slowest Zerg in the game. By far. I have never seen another... There is no other Zerg player, we bring this up, especially going mutas, under 400 APM. Cyril's usually around 450 to 500. Shid and Raynor, Ragnarok and Raynor are both 600 plus sometimes. But the efficiency with which Rogue plays Zerg, the amount he's able to do somehow with seemingly less APM. Yes, you could be like, effective APM is different. That's my point. He seems to be getting more with less. He's working smarter and not harder. Maru has 100 more APM than him, but he's keeping up and obviously outstripping him like last game. But is it enough? Mass Muta against Cyclones. So much damage. The Cyclones lock on and thin out the Mutas dramatically. But the Banelings are rolling through after the Widowmines have been cleared out. The Siege Tank's not doing enough to deal with them. But another Widowmine locks on. Oh, no. It's a disaster. Oh, it started out good, but it fell apart quickly. And the Banshees on the other side. There are 17 more Mutas in production, but that's not going to be delivered in time. Another base will be taken down. One down the center. Rogue's still at 82, but he's barely killed any SCVs. And the Widowmines are recharging. He has no detection. The minefield is tearing through the Mutalist, and only a few will survive. Oh no, not another one. Oh, it's a disaster. The Widowmines, but a last Widowmine comes through. He has almost, he doesn't have any Overseers. The Widowmines are by far the MVPs. The Banshees are cloaked, the Mines are burrowed, the Cyclones and Hellions a little more vulnerable in between. Comes in again though, Rogue. Not willing to let Maru sit back, because if he builds up a critical mass, he will die. But if Rogue digs too deep and too greedily, then that missile turret at 4 kills and counting. The Widowmines racking up the damage across the board. 15 SCVs dead. But at what cost? It wasn't a small amount. In the last 90 seconds, 125 Zerglings, 36 Mutas, and 3 Cyclones. Goodbye, Maru. Widowmines are devastating to both sides. Rogue got 15 clones. It's just... Mutaling is all about momentum. And he didn't quite capture enough of it. And now Maru is just... The smaller the unit counts get, the better the Cyclones are. And the Muta... It's not enough. 11 drones dead. There's still Hellbats just burning through the mineral line. The Banshees, by the way. The Banshees. How many Banshees have died? Only 1? That's disgusting. He might get a second, but you can see here that... Oh! The bait and switch! So I think the Overseers are either the same speed or slightly slower, but he's running out of map. So he will lose one, but the other Banshee is still flying around. He's gonna find some banelings. It's not getting any easier. He doubles back. This is just set. Oh. Chases the Banshee literally to the ends of the earth and back. And now, well, for both the Banshees and a whole lot of mutas, the Necropolis is becoming a little more apt, but he's not done yet. Rogue is down 20 supplies, down 15 workers. He's down in upgrades. He's down in APM. He's down, but he's not out yet. It's bad. It's, make no mistake. GG is coming in all its glory and all its horror. Very simply, a poorly upgraded Zerg army with 2/3 of the army supply against an army designed to hard counter it. It ain't gonna work. Even if Maru stands there and tanks the banelings directly in the face like he enjoys the activity, it's not gonna work. Even if the mutas kill another dozen SCVs, it's not going to work. Even if these turrets spontaneously imploded in solidarity for the plight of the mutalist, it wouldn't work. And even if the drones survived to work themselves, it would not work. Maru claims the G's and ties up the series 1-1. Meching it happen. The Banshees. So that's why every time I see a Terran, I'm gonna die on this hill. Alright? So I can see eye level with the Banshees. But every time I see a Terran just not go Banshees. Full stop against Zerg. Even one Banshee. I wonder, one letter. Why? To me, from a casual, amateur, random perspective, the Banshees almost always are worth it. Like, their existence forces spore crawlers. It drags attention. You don't even need to kill drones. It's great if you do, but just having the Banshees showing them and like keeping them right at the edge of the creep, so they have to be thinking about it, hanging above like the missile helicopter of Damocles there. And every time I see someone not go Banshees, I'm mostly talking about Clem. If you watched the series against Ragnarok a few days ago, which you should, you can pause and I'll let you, it's important context. And welcome back. Didn't expect that, did you? I mean, maybe yes, but also no. I'm glad you enjoyed, and welcome back. 1-1, Maru versus Rogue. We're going into Rorschach, so appropriate time to speak about psychological, philosophical, and potentially emotional blocks, but Banshees. The amount of map control, the amount of response it takes for a Zerg to deal with them. And what is this, Rogue? Rogue finds a worker-only path. He's like, I'm using it. Without fail, it seems. There is a worker-only path, apparently, to a mixed gold base. A full twist. 4 gold patches, 4 blue. But he's also got a pull first. So Rogue has something special in mind for us. My point being, Banshees are, in my humble and modest opinion, the best opener in Terran versus Zerg, and it's not close. And anything else is mostly just cover for going Banshees more successfully later. I'm waiting for a relatively evenly matched, or not evenly matched series to prove me wrong. But we'll see. So Maru has gone Command Center first. Rogue has not even gone Hatch first. Which means Zerglings are coming across the map, but somewhat counterintuitively, this means the Command Center is safer than if he had gone 1 Rax Expand, because it's completed, and in fact he's going to have an orbital command. Though Maru, in typical Maru fashion, did not even wall off. He's like, I'm just gonna quadruple down on the greed here. He could have just built his barracks at a normal location. But no. Here come the SCVs. It's always the blue mineral workers who are on the front lines when it comes to these decisions by the bourgeois. But Sig Zerglings are not an existential threat. But any amount more with Zergling speed certainly are. He's still not walled. He wouldn't just go Zergling speed. He did. And he has. The Overlord is going to spot that there is no wall, but it's already too late to get the Zerglings in, and now there are 2 more Marines. Is this a German taxi build? Wow, okay. So Rogue looks like he's doing an Overlord drop rush. For Queens. As a personal chauffeur for the Queens. The build named after Lambo, who pioneered it as one of the only ways to actually potentially do early damage to either a Terran or a Protoss, who was reliant on air defense, like Banshees, which we spoke of. And there are 2 Dropper Lords on the way. Oh, he's just he's sending it all. There is the bunker, which was Maru's acknowledgement that he hasn't scouted it all. The map is dark and full of Zerglings, so... he's suspecting a Roach Ravager all-in. Based on everything we're seeing here, he is about to be completely blindsided. There's a Banshee with Cloak on the way, but of course, a lair is done in order to get Dropper Lords in the first place. So, scooch over! What? We're the same size! I need more space. That's what my therapist said. Yeah, you probably should keep seeing them. What is that? Sorry. I apologize, Susan. I did not mean to raise my voice. I know it echoes a lot in... Oh my god. Oh, that a Banshee? Sorry. Meanwhile, the drops in the main. And here we go. Rogue is putting it all on the line. He has 24 drones. Creep spread. He gets the transfuse onto the Queen. The Banshee's stuck at the back. Cloak is 10 seconds out. There is no Overseer, but he could build one quite quickly. Trying to break down the bunker. The bunker is still holding, and that's kind of the important point here. Cloak is done. He needs an Overseer desperately. And he actually just picks up the Queen to get out. The single Banshee with Cloak is enough. Now 2 Banshees. And now it's possibly too much for the Queen state. So, Rogue... I don't know how this works for Maru. Like, he built the bunker suspecting it all in, and then Rogue did it all in, and the bunker still worked for him. He dropped in range of the bunker. I think he wanted to break it immediately. Oh, there's Hellbats. There's Banshee speed on the way. But the Banshees are at the back. The Hellbats out in front just easily micros back. A single Queen survives. That didn't go very well, did it? Did it, suit? I'm all alone. Hey! Well, And now there's Banshee speed on the way. So Rogue's only anti-air is in an Overlord that is trying to catch up with the non-speed Banshees. I mean, he has a Spore Crawler and some Queens back at home, but it's a disaster. And it's also doing very little to dispel the notion that Banshees are the best opener in Terran versus Zerg, which I so confidently said before this. Just assuming it would be another macro game where Banshees played a small but pivotal role. But here they are, playing a big and pivotal role, as I struggle to pronounce that entire sentence. But I'm pretty confident pronouncing another thing. Rogue, dead. GG! 2-1 Maru. Rogue flounders on the assault, and Maru just shuts him down before he can even get started. Maru, that was more one-sided than a Mobius Strip, and now we're going straight into our bonus series. Our anti-spoiler bonus series. You guys have heard of the #1 Terran in the world? Yes, Maru. You might be like, no. In this match, Maru is the #1 Terran. Because the #1 Terran is playing Protoss. Clem versus Maru for the GSL qualifiers of the second season of 2026. Clem is intending... This is not the elimination match, but he is participating in the GSL qualifiers. I don't remember if it's the first time, but if he gets through, then it's possible he will be going to Korea because at least the semifinals and finals are offline, and I feel like Clem has not a bad chance, assuming obviously he's able to get that far. Which, Maru is one of the only Terran players who has stopped him before. His win rate against Terran is quite high, considering he doesn't have to play against Clem. So, but, and here's your, in case you haven't followed along, Clem decided a while ago that he didn't like mirror matchups. He's like casters on YouTube who see their analytics whenever they post a mirror matchup and says, I don't like those numbers. So, instead, he decided, well, I think Protoss is pretty strong. Why don't I do that instead? And here we are, with Clem being in the top 3 Protoss in the world. And actually, his Protoss is ranked higher than his Terran on the European Grandmaster ladder as well. Though, still don't see him playing Protoss against Zerg. Well, because it's Terran versus Zerg is obscenely good, so... Anyways, our first biracial player in StarCraft 2. On a regular basis, at least. Marine first. Engineering Bay block from Maru. Clem's response is to just take the 3rd. Now, we've seen Hero do this before. And then cancel and just take the natural the moment the Engineering Bay is canceled. But Clem does not strike me as that kind of Protoss. He's very meticulous. He does make Protoss look like a lot more of a science than a spirituality that some others do. Of course, all of it, much of it, not all of it, but much of it being inspired from his counterpart Max Pax, who he's played over 1,000 times in top tier matches. He now has his own style, which I think is best. Well, there's a reason Maru is the second best Terran, and it's very close overall. He's just such a different player than Clem. Like, he's such a strategic... I can't remember the last time I've seen Clem play Mech against Zerg. I think most of the time it's because he doesn't need to. Whereas Maru is more prepared. And remember that, especially those last matches from the RSL, you know your opponents beforehand. You have some time to prepare. Maru has always been kind of an expert at countering the player. Whereas Clem, with his speed and his precision, is an expert at countering everything else. But strategy can outdo tactics if you're good enough. Though, sometimes Clem is just Clem. I've spoken. Adept survives with 1 more HP than it needed. Maru with a medevac, and it makes a lot more sense to go for a medevac in this matchup because a shield battery shuts down a Banshee, and it's a lot easier to get detection, and stalkers are built in it. The point is, it's specific to Terran versus Zerg, my commentary on the Banshee. I don't want it to be misconstrued. This is the internet, where no one would just misinterpret a statement or take it out of context. Right, Mom? But Blake is not done. Clem gets kind of blindsided, which is surprising because he hasn't even blinked yet, but 2 stalkers already dead. The Adept, the Probes, the Cyclone at 1 HP, but the medevac itself being targeted, but that means a lot of probes are going to go down. 6 probes dead. And Clem, well, losing more as the Marines just kind of vaults up. Another one bites the dust. 2 more Marines just kind of casually strolling by. And Clem now down one worker. So part of the reason this was so devastating is Clem got a little greedy. He did not build a shield battery at the third. Just gets blindsided by the Cyclone Medevac, which is a build he uses on a very regular basis against Protoss. So I'm kind of surprised that that went the way it did. But the bunker, SCV taken out. The Cyclone will be repaired from 1 HP all the way to full, which only costs 25% of the total cost. Fun fact. It's not 1-to-1. I think a lot of people who even have played for years might not actually know that. Charge is on the way, and that was a lot of damage. And very importantly, he actually killed the Stalkers. Though Clem got the medevac. So, a bit of a back and forth. Maru with the bulwark to box out any blink. But Clem, very much aware. And he had already... Has Maru even scouted? He scouted the third. Oh, he got the Marines in at the end of the attack. Raven in the main. There's enough energy for another auto turret, though. He can follow it up. A couple more probes are going to go down. The Stalker's unable to chase it in time. And Clem... The gateways are spotted. The Robo Bay was not. And it all comes down to this time. Is he... Wait, is there... Is he going to pull the boys? He doesn't know the timing of the Colossus. He may just assume this is charge. Do you kill the Observer and pull the boys? Or do you just go and not care? That's the option. A scan at the natural. He sees some gas. And the boys! Just try to get an idea of the probe count. I'm not sure what it told him, but he decided the SCVs are coming off the line. There's going to be one Colossus, which is not enough to just shut this down. And the robotics facility is vulnerable at the third. So many SCVs. It's like 2/3 of all of them. Meanwhile, the Raven is still above as well. Even a single auto turret could tilt the scales. But he's putting more than a thumb on it right now. +1 infantry weapons done. Everything coming together. The triple threat of combat shield +1 and stim. The Nexus already under heavy attack. Blinks in. Knocks out one of the siege tanks. Charge lots softened up by the Widow Mine. And Maru's front line holds. The SCV is not even suffering too many losses. About equal with the probes who are on the run now. Not trying for a second Colossus. The Robo is probably not going to survive much longer. More Zealots just gunned down. The Colossus under fire. Anti-armor missile softens it up further. Couple Marauders topple it. And the supply is just gone. And Maru tearing through Clem in game number 1. It looked a bit tenuous. The amount of damage that he got with the early Cyclone drop was surprising. Now, I'm not sure how Clem would deal with that, but well, a shield battery. You think if you are reasonably sure a Cyclone drop is coming, then having a shield battery anywhere nearby would be the way. But Maru cuts through Clem in game 1, and it was close, but a decisive victory at the end. Clem just didn't have nearly enough. A half step behind from the start, it seemed. Maru chose his timings well. Everything went right. So much of TVP revolves around this kind of house of cards, especially for Terran, but also for Protoss. But the getting a little bit more, or a lot of bit more with the early pressure. Because if you don't go for the early pressure, the Protoss is just going to have an overwhelming amount of Blink Stalkers before you move out. And they'll be blinking into your base. Even if they're going for a 3 Nexus, there's going to be enough Blink Stalkers to threaten your base. So you have to do something, unless you're willing to potentially deal with that. And most Terrans are not. It's just painful, and it sets you further behind. But, of course, you put your neck out there, which is always risky against a Frenchman. When you go for something like a Cyclone Medevac or even an early Banshee, because there's a reason why Blink is used every single game, almost every single game in Terran versus Protoss. because it covers everything. Maybe not particularly well, but anything the Terran can throw at you, it is close enough. Especially combining the Robo in relatively early. So, while also having the aggressive potential of blinking into their base. So. Maru sends out the Reaper. Is that his first scout? Of course. Maru probably uniquely vulnerable to like a 2-gate proxy or something like that, but he just seems to... He's more worried about his build than his opponent's, which is important for most players, but it kind of stands out with Maru and how confident he is he's going about his... Like, we even saw it on Celestial Enclave against Rogue. It didn't work out. It did not go well, but he clearly had a plan. And then he kind of punched himself in the mouth a bit, but, you know, sometimes way she goes. Bunker done the second the Stalker gets within range. Could not have scripted it better. Is that a wall? It doesn't quite look like it, but it seems like the Reaper can't jump in there. Well, when the Stalkers are chasing it, it's not inclined to do so, but... And no scout, but it is a Twilight Council. He's got Blink on the way. There's the robotics facility, Clem, with that stock standard. And Maru with the starport. A Banshee on the way. And Cloak. Loving those Banshees. Now, even if you have Blink and Robo, again, you run into the issue of your units don't... observers fly, but your units can't necessarily chase down the Banshees. The threat of the Banshees anchors so many units back at home. He spots the Robo timing. Might just try to get a probe, and he may very well do so. Another probe dead. And getting even greedier, gets a bit more of a scout. Sees no pylons to put tech at. And spotted the third base timing. So Maru knows everything. Everything there is to know. The Robo timing, the third base timing, the fact he's going Blink, or at least the significant likelihood. And he decides to maintain the Cloak on the Banshees. If you have two Banshees together, you can do enough damage quickly before the shield battery reshields and punch right through it. So even if they're prepared for the Banshees, they're not prepared for two Banshees, which felt like a dumb sentence, but just add it to the list. I don't know. A mothership over there. That's the normal activity of a mothership in TVP, which is dying randomly. Cloaks. The observer... Clem spotted it. The observer towards the main. He's still gonna get a few kills. Oh, this is just disrespectful. 5 kills. But the Banshee died. I'd rather lose 5 probes to a Banshee and kill the Banshee than lose no probes and have a Banshee just hanging over my head. Obviously, a middle ground between those two would be great, but... if he gets both, okay, well that's a disaster. I'd rather lose 1 probe and kill the Banshee. That's better. Okay, we're improving, we're iterating here. We're trying to create a robust sort of process that can constantly use positive feedback in a infinite growth loop. So that way, at some point, we can create so much shareholder value. And what's more important than that? Like and subscribe. Here on this site owned by Google. Sorry, Alphabet. It's different. Technically. And legally. Robo Bay on the way. Extended thermal lance. just started. Respectable. And the Blink Stalkers in much higher number, but up against Marines and Marauders with a hefty count. And he's not pulling the boys. Third command center's already halfway done. The Stalkers dueling. Clem with immaculate Blink micro so far. Only one Stalker even bruised past the shields. Maru actually targets it. But the Colossus against just the M&M. He may have suspected the only charge sort of style. There are no siege tanks. Wow, it takes a lot of damage on the Colossus, though. Trying to bait all this out. Clem respecting the Widow Mines. Observer joining up with the army. Snipes off a Marauder off to the side. Snipes off the Observer. But Widow Mines are dragged out anyways, and Clem is just kind of carving his way. Just gets another Marauder on the way out. Maru bleeding out supply on the field while Clem chases him down. There's a couple Widow Mines out in front. Blinks out of one. Gonna try to drag the other. And now he's knocking on the door, and Maru starting to build some Vikings. He has 3 medevacs, so still enough to keep it together. At least for now. A bit of Prairie Dog micro, but he snipes off the Widow Mine other way. And Clem, extended thermal lance in 5 seconds. He's got a 4th base in production. Maru might have a 3rd command center, but he has to get out of his 2nd first. Who's on first? The boys pre-pulled, and Clem backs off. He's got +1 coming up. Will he? The fact that Maru has pulled SCVs already, there's no real reason for Clem to commit to this fight. He just backs off, leaves him hanging. Blinks out of one of the mines. There he goes. Ooh. Okay, well, not ideal with the mines, but Maru in now a very uncomfortable position. He's long distance mounting from the 3rd. The Zealot will spot it. But now there's 3 Colossi. +1 attack is completed. Maru will still have the advantage with the armor upgrade. But Clem, well, looking in a much stronger position than game 1. Charges forth, blinks past, Colossus targeting, force field thrown out, and, well, kiting back, incinerating SCVs, and keeping enough of his army together, manually targeting some of the Marauders instead of just trying to buffer for the Colossi, trying to dive. That's 4 Colossi. And he'll burn. 130 supply. Clem has already done the economic damage. He incinerates the Marines and Marauders, and he battles it back. Maru retreats. But there's only so much space, and the Clempire strikes back. We're all tied up 1-1. Maru, the Banshees less, well, the Banshees were a disaster. Let's make no mistake. That was actively hurtful. Straight up losing 2 Banshees for 6 probe kills after investing in Cloak. That's, how they say, bad. So. And even then, Maru's still a threat, but you see how the little bits add up to take a big bite out of your mid-game. And the decider. The winner of this moves on to the... Yeah. Let me edit that out. The winner of this moves on to the GSL Season 2. The loser will have one more chance, I believe, in the loser bracket. Aptly named, though somewhat hurtful. Don't lose, then. Pro tip. Sometimes I see the comments like, why don't you just repair your medevacs instead of not repair them? And to me, I think, like, that's a good point. And also, it kind of sounds like, why don't you try winning instead of losing? As, believe it or not, these players, last I checked, are human. And they aren't perfect. And that's kind of the whole game itself. Because if they were and they had 25,000 APM, they'd be individually microing each worker with the worker acceleration trick and individually stutter-stepping Marines in and out of medevacs, dodging every single shot, like some of those epileptic AI do. I'm talking about scripted AI, not whatever you just plugged into ChatGPT or, what is it, Claude now? whichever flavor of the month algorithm is ripping the worst of humanity and throwing it through a meat grinder / data blender and spitting out something that sounds good to you. But you're absolutely right. I should respect YouTube commenters more. Like and subscribe. For existential dread. Reaper on the way. Maru. This will be his first scout yet again, but a much safer build in the main. He's got the double gas. That's it. That's all I got. But he's walled off in the main. And a tech lab behind. Ah, Cyclone first. Interesting. And Clem not taking any chances with this one. He's going to build a shield battery preemptively at the natural. We got a sentry on the way. Ah, a very defensive start from Clem. This is the most conservative you get for Protoss. A sentry with energy recharge. Or he's just waiting out the hallucination. So there's some value to that as well. Terran simply doesn't commit to their build until after the starport finishes, and the starport doesn't finish till around 3:30. So until that point, you can scout what they're doing, but Clem probably has a strong suspicion. And the sentry in the main, partially to look for the Reaper, and I love seeing an Oracle. All right, I like hallucinating Oracles, but I don't play against the best Terrans in the world, just the ones who think they are. Mid-GMNA. They just know so much more than the rest of us, but I digress. Hallucinated Phoenix headed across the map, and unfortunately, will get knocked down. You might think, oh, now Clem doesn't know. Oh, he does. That's a Cyclone. That's all I needed to know. And of course, he saw the factory actually move to build another tech lab behind, which is bonus information that he didn't even need to get to kind of figure out exactly what he was dealing with. So this time around, Clem is actually getting a third gate. Will we see 4? Which indicates much more of an all-in. Hallucinated Phoenix will spot the medevac. The Cyclone is still back at home, but Clem doesn't know that. Right now it's Schrodinger's clone. Well, not anymore, because he saw it with the Hallucinated Phoenix. So he knows that whatever's in here, at least it's not a Cyclone, and it's probably not very many Marines. So the third base is on the way, and a single Banshee. We brought it all the way around. In the last game, of all the games today, I assume, unless this is a draw, in which case we'll play this map again. Not out of the question. There will be an uncloaked Banshee. Hallucinated Phoenix eats a Widow Mine hit, which is a pretty high value move. But the Widow Mine is promptly saved by the medevac. And Blank is almost completed. Maru? Is this a Tactiboys situation? It feels like a Tactiboys situation. Just enough SCVs to repair, not enough SCVs to completely hamstring your economy. And here we are. The Tactiboys are pulled. 5 of them, some of them bringing gas geysers just in case they need it. I mean, with prices nowadays, not a bad idea. Meanwhile, the Widowmine dropping the main, and Clem retarget. Prairie Dog Micro. Pulls it up, just gonna give him the probe, but the Stalkers are at the front, and the tanks are already here, though. And with some of the Stalkers stuck in the main, the medevac joining up with the attack, the shield battery recharges the sentry to get a Guardian shield. Eats a hit, but the Guardian shield gonna help cover the toes of the rest of the Stalkers. But here is Maru, banging on the door, trying to tear it down. But will he be tearing through? Or will he get tossed back? Bunker on the way. It could go either way. Clem has 16 more probes, which means his army is significantly smaller. But he has the shield batteries to retreat to, loses a couple units. Reinforcements cut off, including another siege tank by the Blink Stalkers. The Robo is depowered, targeted. The SCV's on the front line. The bunker's nearly done. Charge is 80% of the way there. but the gateways are falling. He's building more in the main. That shield battery is depowered as well. Chrono boosting the gates. Clem has the money, but he doesn't have the production. He's trying to wait for charge. 13 seconds. Nexus falling. The Stalkers blink forward. The Zealots coming in. He doesn't want to wait any longer. The Banshees are uncloaked, but they're enough damage. And Maru boxes out on the left and the right, though the siege tanks down the center were gutted. The Banshees still working their way through. There's still a lot of damage for the Stalkers to deal with. He hasn't repowered the shield battery. The Banshees are being repaired by the SCVs underneath. Don't worry about how that works. Knocks down one of the medevacs. The SCVs working on each other. And the Marines and Banshees, the probes are trickling through. But the Stalkers, all so close to death. The ones that haven't already joined the units lost have. And I think Maru has crossed the Rubicon here. He gets right through absolutely everything. And, well, it would have been an upset not to say it. But Maru will not be upset today. And he will be joining the next season of GSL. Clem still fighting. Taking some inspiration from Hero here. I have 3 Zealots and 2 Stalkers and a dream. But, it's more like a nightmare. Maru has done it. Clem getting a little too greedy in 2 out of 3 games. Eventually, oh, he drops a mule! And we can be generous and say that was to repair the tank, but I think it's doing a bit of double duty there. Recalls some of the probes to the natural, not all of them. And gets on top of the siege tanks, and Clem fighting for his life. Oh no, doesn't quite get the hit. There's not enough damage. The mule actually keeping the tank alive more than likely long enough to secure the victory. And there's still so many Marines. Clem is really dragging this out. He's still, well, technically, if he actually holds this, he still has more workers. The Nexus is falling. He just can't get enough units. Another siege tank. The bunker's right there. GG. Clem fighting tooth and nail. Metaphorically, of course. At least for the teeth with the Protoss. That joke took too long and really cut into the drama of Maru taking the victory. But it's 2-1. Maru claims victory over Clem. But I have my suspicions that we may very well see Clem in Korea for this next season of GSL. A season that many of us were kind of surprised happened at all. But make sure to check out patreon.com/GSL as it's sustained by the people and for the people at this point. And I'm excited for it. And of course, for the current season, they're doing the qualifiers. I think there's going to be 3. Either way, we'll figure that out. Jimmy, do some research. That's not my job. I just do the talking and sound count. Thank you for watching. I hope it made your day at least a little bit better. And if you got the means of motivation, you also check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But your liking and subscribing is still free, at least for now. So, thank you to our meal tier patrons, Big Jiggy, Devin Door, Kate, Crazy Mouse, Mario Soup. Glad y'all still enjoy. And if you haven't yet checked out this video, Jimmy picked it out just for you. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check out Winter Gaming TV for even more streams and strategy games. And otherwise, I hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.